We've just been listening to President Trump deliver his speech there at the Freedom 250 event on the National Mall, delayed several hours because of that severe weather that rolled in to the nation's capital. The president delivering a mostly patriotic speech, but of course veering into politics at times and settling some vendettas throughout that speech. He did highlight some real American heroes throughout the nearly 45-minute speech, if not longer. Heroes from World War II, veterans still alive from Iwo Jima who survived that, who survived the Pearl Harbor bombing, veterans from Vietnam War as well, along with 11 Gold Star families and the crew of Artemis II, saying that America's days in space, our best days in space, are still far out ahead, promising to go to the moon and possibly even to Mars. Our Ryan Nobles is there in the National Mall, part of our team of correspondents covering all the festivities on this special July 4th. Ryan, the reaction from the crowd there, largely a group of the president's supporters, Americans, patriotic, who had come out to celebrate the 4th and who were incredibly patient with the festivities today.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Tom. It was a difficult night for anyone who was a part of what went on here today because of the back and forth coming in and out of the National Mall, fighting through security, fighting through a weather delay to finally get to the point where they heard the president speak. As you mentioned, his speech went a little bit more than 40 minutes. The White House team had promised us that it would be unique when it comes to speeches from President Trump, and it was in the fact, as you rightly point out, that they brought out all these different American heroes that he pointed to at different points in the speech, talked about their commitment and service to the country and the contribution that they had and that they had made, and then making a promise to protect all the work that they had put in to protect the future of this country. But President Trump always has to find a way to work into politics. He once again brought up communism several times over the course of this speech, warning that he would not allow communism to become part of the United States political system, even though there's not any real apparent threat of communism taking over in any way, shape, or form. But as Donald Trump's speeches go, this was as unifying as we've seen him in some time. He certainly made some declarations about the size of the crowd here, which I think are dubious at best. He said somewhere in the range of 150,000 people were on the National Mall at one point. I think that would be a hard number to pin down. And of course, the crowd ended up being much smaller, which is probably not a surprise to anyone, given the fact that people were forced to leave and come back in and deal with the weather and all the security failures. But there is still a pretty relatively good-sized crowd here waiting to see this incredible fireworks display, Tom, which is going to be more than 850,000 fireworks that will be blasted off from different points around Washington, D.C., in anticipation of what they are hoping will be a Guinness Book of World Record-breaking event. Tom.
The Star-Spangled Banner has started. Let's listen in. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.